The new stamp set by Rupa Shevda called Enjoy the Journey has so many cute images for scrapbooking, card making, and 3D crafting. You can make cute little gifts like a bookmark for someone who is off on vacation and plans to do some reading in the sun, or a mini card like my project today, which is perfect for slipping a gift card inside to send your loved one off on their journey along with a little spending money. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to do this project. First, you're going to need some of the stamps from the new Enjoy the Journey stamp set, and I'm using the little stack of luggage here. And then I'm also using the tag, which is such a nice bold tag. I love this image. And then I'm using one of the little greetings that I'm going to stamp inside the tag. Then you're going to need some ink pads, and I'm going to use two of the Memento pads, the Tuxedo Black and the Rich Cocoa. I also have a few Copic markers here that I'm going to use to color. I have E35, which is chamois. I have a colorless blender pen, and I have E40, which is brick white. Then I have a Bic marker here. This is one of the fine-tipped Bic markers, and this one is Tiki Hut Tan. I also have a Sakura Jelly Roll pen. This is the Stardust, the Clear Star pen, and I'm going to use that for some of the metal parts of the luggage and also the tag to just give it a little bit of sparkle and shine. Then I have a Cuttlebug folder, and the one that I'm going to use today is the Swiss Dot folder. Then I have some 1/4 inch pop dots, some scissors, and then some cardstock. And for my images, I'm going to use the layering weight ivory cardstock. And for the rest of the card, I have a piece of the heavy base weight ivory. I have a piece of our dark chocolate, and then I have a little ivory card base that I made. I'm also going to use some mono adhesive and a Cuttlebug for running the Cuttlebug folder through. So to begin, I'm going to start with the Rich Cocoa ink. I didn't want to stamp my images in black. I wanted them to be a little bit softer for this project. And the Rich Cocoa still gives you a nice bold image that you can color, but it also is just a little bit more subtle than the black. So I'm going to stamp that tag right about there. And then, isn't that nice and crisp? I want you to see that a little bit closer there. You can see all the detail. Then I have this little stack of luggage here, and I'm going to ink that up with the Rich Cocoa as well and stamp that on here. Now I'm not stamping them in any particular place because I am going to cut them out with my scissors. So I'm just stamping them wherever there's room, and you can use scraps for this. If you've got a couple little scraps of ivory, you can do that instead. Make sure that's all pressed down nicely. There we go. And there's another nice crisp image. Now I want to add a greeting. I'm going to flip this upside down because this is the direction I want my tag to go in. I'm going to add a greeting onto that tag, and because I'm using the clear stamps, I can see right through and I can line it up pretty well. But if you've chosen the rubber version of this stamp set, it's pretty easy to line up, but if you want to be absolutely precise, you can use a Stamp-A-Majig. So I'm going to add that right about here. There. Have a safe journey. It's a nice little greeting for my card. So I'm going to color the perimeter of this particular image using that chamois Copic marker. I'm going to color right around the whole thing, not worrying about shading or anything, because what I want to do here is I want to create kind of a distressed look. I want my luggage to look a little bit old and a little bit beat up, and of course I want the tag to match. So I'm just going to go around the perimeter there of the whole thing. And then I'm going to color on the inside of the tag too, because I don't want the inside of the tag to be as bright ivory as the rest of the card base that this is going to be sitting on. So I just want to add a little hint of color, and that's where that brick white is going to come in. I really like using the Copic original markers because you can get into the finest little spots with them. It's a little bit more difficult with the sketch markers, although that brush tip does come to a pretty fine point, so if you practice with that, you'll be able to get in the small areas too. I do so much tiny stamping, little stamp images that I like to color, so I've chosen the originals. You can buy nibs for the sketch markers too, so if you don't use your chisel side too much, you might want to re-tip that with a bullet point like I use. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit of that brick white. I'm going to do that on the inside. Just going to color all over that. And you can see that doesn't really create a lot of color, it just creates a little bit of texture and just darkens it up a little bit. Next, I'm going to use my Copic blender pen. And I'm going to use the bullet side again, or if you have the brush tip, you can do the this coloring with that. And I'm just going to start to pull color off. And that's going to create a very distressed look. Put a lot of texture into that. And I'm not doing it any fancy way. I'm just almost, you know, when you're trying to create a distressed look, there really isn't a pattern to distressed and old and beat up. It's just worn away in certain spots, and that's kind of what you want to achieve, so you don't have to worry about too much perfection with this part of the technique. So there you go. If you take a close-up look at that, you can see all of that distress that I put in there. And then finally, I'm going to add a little bit of glitter to that using the Sakura glitter pen, the Stardust pen. I'm just going to kind of draw right over that buckle like that. And that's a little bit hard to see, but I think you can see some of that shining there. And it just gives it more of a metallic look. Now I want to show you the way that I'm going to color these suitcases. And I'm not going to do all the suitcases for you, but I'm going to color the top one, this little carry-on bag, because I want to show you a fun little texture that you can put in it. So I'm going to color this one again using the same chamois marker. And if you don't have that marker, you can use any brown you want. You can mix colors together to create new colors. Copics are so much fun to play with. And as if this was a fancy fabric bag going on the trip, I'm going to take the colorless blender pen and I'm going to create some texture here by just going on an angle and adding some lines down through it. You can see that close. That's got kind of a neat fabric-y feel to it. And then using the Tiki Hut tan, I'm just going to accent some of these areas here, make them a little bit darker. And I could have used a brown Copic marker too, but I really like the fine little bullet on that. And you can mix these markers with Copic markers and it works just fine. And then the luggage here, well, I'll show you one suitcase. Basically, I want to create, again, that look of distressed luggage. And you can color over the entire thing. You don't have to worry about fussy coloring where you're coloring all around the little buckles and the little handle or anything like that, because I'm going to go over the little the buckles and the handle. I'm going to use the Tiki Hut over the handle, and I'm going to use some of that Stardust pen over the little closures there. So, okay, so now I've added all that brown on there, and once again, using that Copic blender pen, I'm going to pull color off. So it's going to create lots and lots of distressed texture Doesn't this just, it's starting to look like an old suitcase now. You can see all that. Then using that Tiki Hut, I can go back over the handle and make that darker and add a little bit of the Sakura pen here over those little metallic areas that would normally sparkle or be shiny. And when the light hits it just so, you'd be able to see that little bit of shimmer in there. So, and of course I would do that one the same way. So now my next step is to cut these images out. I'll finish coloring this one, and then I'm going to cut them out using my cutter bee scissors. And when I cut these out, I'm going to leave just a little bit of the white showing, like that, a little margin around. And that's nice because I'm using the ivory card base too, so the colors are the same, so you're not going to notice that too much. If there's a little bit of an edge around there, it'll all blend together. So I'll finish cutting these out and I'll be back in just a minute. Here's an up-close view of my finished suitcases and my finished tag. And I'm going to attach these to my card base using some of the 1/4-inch pop dots. But before I do that, I want to add a little bit of texture to my background. So I'm going to do that using the Cuttlebug and the Swiss Dot Cuttlebug folder. Another really fun folder that you can use is the mesh folder. And that one appears almost a little bit like a snake skin, which is kind of a fun background too, because snake skin kind of lends itself to suitcases and luggage and kind of that vintage feel. So you can use either one of those for this. So I'm going to position my piece of cardstock in here on my Cuttlebug folder. And I just want to make sure that I have even spacing side to side so that I'm not going to have more dots on one side than the other, that they're pretty lined up and straight, because nothing's worse than when your dots are not straight. Okay, so I have an A plate and a B plate, and then I'm going to put the Cuttlebug folder in the center and another B plate and run that through. And now I have my nice little Swiss dot pattern there, nice and straight and ready to go onto my card base. So my next step is to take this piece of dark chocolate, and I'm going to adhere that Cuttlebugged panel onto the dark chocolate. And again, this is an 1/8 inch border. I really like to work with the 1/8 inch borders. And I know some of you also like the 1/4 inch borders, and those are nice too. And then that whole panel is just going to sit on top of that ivory card base. Okay, so now I'm ready to adhere my pieces on top. So I'm going to have this tag kind of staggered off like this, and then I'm going to put my little stack of luggage right next to it. So then I have my focal image, and I also have my greeting. 3 pop dots on each of these should be plenty. One on each corner toward the bottom of the piece, and then one toward the top. So I'll position this tag first. And that's going to go just about here. Have a safe journey. And my little stack of luggage will go right down here in this corner. And there is my finished card. Although I did a lot of coloring on this project, you can get a bright fun effect by paper piecing the luggage in 3 coordinating patterns and then matching the perimeter of the tag with one of the patterns as well.